All right, let's see if this will work.
Okay, and welcome to Aaron Ross. And remember to everyone, please keep sending emails with love. And I know, Aaron Ross, you have shared everything from, I've learned so much from you, man. And one of the things I learned from you is love to your family and children, to your users. And one thing that really changed my life that I learned from you was that you telling to everyone, you share pictures from your family, from your day to day. And man, thank you for being in the show. And remember, just send emails with love. Aaron, welcome to
That heart hat is hilarious.
I'll give it one to you on Friday if I make you then.
All right.
Aaron, tell me, whoever doesn't know Aaron, please tell me a little bit about you. Everyone must know Aaron Ross from
Yeah,
Predictable Revenue.
yeah, Gerard. I know you said everyone knows me, but actually, not everyone does know me.
Well, then let's
Yeah.
go for the whoever is not from this planet and share with them.
Yeah. Well, if you have heard of or read the book Predictable Revenue, that's what I'm most, I think, known for. That came out 5 or 6 years ago, and I told the story of how I started a business that failed, went to Salesforce to learn sales, and created their whole outbound prospecting system that was very successful there for Salesforce. And then a couple years ago, I wrote a book with Jason Lemkin of SaaStr. That book's called From Impossible to Inevitable. Neither book is in Spanish or in Spain yet, but we'd love to change that at some point. Although Predictable Revenue has been translated. So actually, Gerard, happy to share that with you. It's just still a Google Doc. And another interesting fact is that, as Gerard sort of referred to, but I've got a large family. We actually have 9 children. So 4 are adopted. There's a couple from a prior marriage, some kids together, but yeah, 9 kids, 8 of which are in the house from ages 1 to 19. And then the oldest is turning 20 later this year. This is why sometimes I can't keep track. But wow. I do usually, it's just fun sharing. I'll do usually like a picture in our business newsletter, a little mini story, but actually even in presentations and keynote talks, I try, depending on honestly my energy level and what's going on, I try to include pictures of the family to help tell the business stories. So for example, there's a SaaStr conference in Paris on Friday, and I've tried to include 6 or 10 family pictures. Not only because they can, it's more personable, I think, than stock pictures, and I think it's helps people know me better. Plus, as my wife says, she'll say, "You just wanted to put that cute picture in there." I'm like, yeah, sometimes.
Well, it's funny because it's just building. You said before, building that rapport, making that like scary sales guys not being so scary. You have a family. We can be amazing salespeople. We can be amazing, having an amazing family, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's one of the reasons as well.
Yeah, because people buy from other people, and as there's everyone gets busier, and there's more apps and there's more messages. One thing that helps cut through the noise is that human connection, including putting a fuzzy heart hat all over your head for your.
Yes, I think that's also one thing. One fact that I was surprised is how much do you love guns, Aaron? I think that's also
I love guns. I'm not, look, by the way, in the United States, there are some gun freaks, people who buy hundreds of guns, okay? I love guns, but that's a little strange, honestly.
It's okay. Who
I have one gun. My wife gave me a rifle.
And that's what I heard.
I only get to shoot it like once every 2 years because just with the family, it's so busy.
Okay. Who's the worst shooter? I know you know it. Worst shooter on gun?
The worst shooter?
No, the world best shooter.
The word best shooter.
Yeah, Tom Butler.
Oh yeah, there's the guy that we've learned from. There's a guy named Taryn Butler, who's a world-class shooter that in Los Angeles. You have all kinds of interesting people. He's close by, and so we've gone to shoot guns with this guy Taryn Butler, he's won all kinds of gun championships. He's just crazy good at how fast he can shoot. Yeah. But I don't know if this will come through, but here's a picture of our family car, if this works. No,
Okay,
this may not work.
you
No,
have to click. What we can do is, if you want, you can
no.
send it to me. I love that.
We have a
If you can,
Sprinter, so that's what I was.
and it's full pack with it's 9 kids, 3 dogs, and 40 employees. Is that correct?
Yeah, 9 kids, 3 dogs, and you said 40? Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Oh wow,
There.
that's a bus, man.
Yeah, that's our family
That's a
car.
bus. I love it. Family meals must be crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. There's
you know,
there's a lot every day. Just a lot of chaos. There's lots of fun. There's lots of problems always because there's just, the bigger the family gets, the more of everything, the more problems, the more happiness, more of everything. So, in fact, the baby
very,
has been really sick for 2 days, so it's been really bad 2 days.
and I remember the first time you sent me back an email. It's like, this is my day. That's how it looks. And it was like an amazing video. Jacuzzis are going out, down sports with the family. And I think it's what makes us human after all. And yeah, internet is beautiful, but we cannot lose that magic, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't do much. He's referring to a little video. I took some Snapchat or Instagram stories through my day. I didn't include very many little pictures of my work because sitting at a computer and a phone isn't that interesting. But I really do blend. It's hard, but I do, I blend work. I juggle. It's like family time and then work and then family and then work because I work at home most of the time. Because between the driving and the babies and schools, I wouldn't be able to go to an office and come back. I just don't have the time right now with young babies at this point.
Do you miss that time where you had to go to the office, be a CEO,
yeah,
and miss it sometimes?
Yeah. I mean, we have our headquarters is in Vancouver, so we have an office. It's just not near me because I'm in Los Angeles, and there's definitely times I'd like to go into the office and see my team in person, and it's not practical.
Yeah. Aaron, I'm serious on that. Not just from the business point of view, but sometimes when I think of a family, it's like, yeah, let's get settled and then let's do a massive growth on growth hacking on your kids, which I think is beautiful, and put all that once you have your Maslow pyramid solved, then you can do kids, and then it's very inspirational.
First, and people want to make money first, then have kids.
Isn't right? How it works?
Sometimes we did a little bit reverse. We had kids and then made money.
Oh, did you? I thought it was actually planned on the other way.
Not really.
I know your beginnings were very tough, also before predictable revenue, but also before you went to Salesforce as well. It was tough, and I think it's a good inspiration for everyone.
Yeah.
If you can share with the team, how was that process?
Yeah, well, one thing, so Salesforce and why I think Gerard calls me, I know a lot about outbound prospecting and building teams. But, the thing is, I never expected to be in sales. I never expected to write a best-selling sales book. But I didn't really appreciate sales until, as I mentioned, I started a business before I was at Salesforce. So this is 1999. So I had gotten into Stanford Business School and didn't go to start an internet company. And that business failed. And one of the reasons is because I, as the CEO, didn't really know sales, professional sales, like hiring salespeople and managing them. And that wasn't the only reason, but that was one of them. So that, really, one of those lessons was, if I'm going to start a company, I need to know how to sell and build a sales team professionally. Because sales is a life skill for anybody. Por todos. See? Because no matter what you do, whether you're starting a nonprofit, whether you're looking for a promotion, whether you're starting a company, honestly, any place in life, sales is a life skill and it's hard to accomplish anything if you can't sell yourself an idea or a product. So that was when I first really realized the value of sales and how I had to learn it by doing it.
And this is good. And I think one of the things you can share is, does a sales guy have to do it all, or shall we specialize and modulate?
So in working at Salesforce, by the way, I didn't let my ego stop me. I took the only job they had at Salesforce in sales was the sales
After
rep,
you
the most
close,
junior.
after you close your company,
Yeah.
that you raised like 5 million, something like this,
Yeah.
and it went.
So I went from being internet CEO to working as the most junior salesperson, like an inbound lead qualifier, answering the 800 line, because that's all they had. And I didn't want to do anything else. I wanted to learn sales by doing it, to get paid to learn. And I figured I just wanted to learn it. And through there, and at Salesforce, I learned a lot about creating an outbound prospecting team. But what I didn't truly appreciate was once I left Salesforce, this is about 2006, and I was consulting with other companies, I didn't realize how important this next idea is and how mandatory it is. It's required to do it if you're going to grow your company or have a chance of growing. And it's this idea of sales role specialization, where you need to break your prospectors out from your closers, right? So you have prospectors who prospect, closers who close. If you have inbound leads of some number, someone else who qualifies them, which is what I started off at Salesforce. And a fourth team, which would be account management or customer success, if you have that. And what I've seen is that if you specialize this way, which it's in Silicon Valley, everybody does it now. It's and partly because of the book, but it's still not enough companies do sales specialization or go far enough. But when you do it, it makes everything easier for the team. Because people really, the idea is how to help them focus to do fewer things better. Because when people are juggling too many things, like a salesperson who's trying to prospect as well and close, it never works in a team. It just doesn't. Because even if they can prospect, which a lot of them, honestly, salespeople aren't that good at it. Once in a while they might be, but most aren't good at it. Most don't want to do it. And even if they do it well and generate pipeline, then they get to be too busy closing pipeline to do prospecting. So they get this up and down. So rarely, once in a while, you can find a unicorn salesperson who can juggle both, but you cannot build a team out of them. You can't. Maybe, I don't know, if it's 1 out of 10 people can do it, if that. So the answer is, again, prospectors who prospect, closers who close, inbound lead qualifiers if you have inbound leads, and account management or customer success. So again, just like any sports team, you've got attackers, defenders, midfield, goalie, they all work together. That is the way, that's step number one. You have to do that if you want to create a company that can grow.
I love this. Some people in the group might say, yeah, but I am only one person. And I think it's a good example of, you used to put the example of your wife. If you can explain that example on how she used to share the times.
Yeah. Well, even if by the way, yeah, everyone says, well, I'm only one person or two people. So we can't. So the way you would apply that generally is through your time, right? So you focus blocks of time on your calendar that you pre-scheduled. So if you don't have time to prospect because you're just busy, and you can't do that in 5 minutes at a time, people create blocks of like 2 hours 3 times a week for prospecting. Or when I was writing a book, the last book, and trying to write a book with a big family while we were growing the family, because we went from 0 to 9 kids in like 6 years. I think it was 6, maybe 7 years.
Yeah, I heard that before, which is growth hacking on kids as well.
It was 2012 to 2007, I don't know, maybe like 5 years. Whatever, it was fast. So the only way that book got written is because on Wednesdays, I blocked out Wednesdays to write. And I scheduled everything around that, or else it would never have happened. So that's how you can start if you're one person with the idea, which is having blocks of time that you can focus on whatever you need to do that you're not getting done. I don't remember the story with my wife. I know that.
Yeah, you said, you remember, well, let me.
When you read, yeah.
You telling her that on Monday she was prospecting, on Tuesday she was doing the SDR job, and then she was doing the account executive, and then she was doing the closing the deals. just basically all the funnel done by herself on different days of the week.
And was that my not my wife, but the principles, right?
Okay, then.
By the way, too, for some people, a day works, for one thing. Other people, you can't do, so you have to find the way that you work with your way you get organized is going to be different for everyone. So only you can answer whether I need to do something for a whole day. I just can't. It's just 2 hours. My mind, I don't know, it just doesn't work very well usually.
Well, nowadays also we have beautiful teams of virtual assistants everywhere in the world. Yeah. And even if you are a team of one, you can have different things split up with different teams. Aaron, also, what about the spears, nets, and seeds, which I think is very important for everyone? Which are the most important, and why would you say that?
Yeah, so again, in both books, we actually talk about the idea of how there's different types of leads. So there's 3 types: seeds, nets, and spears. And this is important because, what I saw was executives or a board would plan, say, all right, last year we did $5 million in revenue with 5,000 leads. So we want to double next year to 10 million in revenue. So we need twice as many leads. So we need 10,000 leads. And inevitably this wouldn't work. And the reason it wouldn't work is because there are different types of leads. So there's seeds, nets, and spears. The seeds are really word of mouth. And they're going to be the best leads, but they're hard to grow. The nets are marketing leads, right? Sort of you're broadcasting one to many. You get a lot of leads, but the quality is low, right? So one word of mouth lead might be worth 10 or 100 marketing leads. And the third type is spears, right? Outbound prospecting, whether it's for customers or partners. And that's where you have a human, like a person in sales or business development, with the targeted lists, and they're making phone calls or emailing to get a relatively small number of appointments or leads, but you should be higher quality. So each type of lead, right, the seeds, nets, and spears, word of mouth, marketing, outbound, or you call it customer success, which is the best way to grow word of mouth, inbound marketing, outbound prospecting. They all have the pros and cons. Some companies should do all 3. Most should do all 3. Sometimes there's companies where outbound's not a fit. But it's important to know that, again, they're all different where, for example, the ideal customer profile is usually different for each type. The sales cycle length can be different. The average deal size can be different. The process to generate them and the metrics can be different. That's why we say a lead is not a lead is not a lead. And when you look at going back to where this started from, if you said we did 5 million last year with 5,000 leads, to double next year to 10 million, you have to know, well, what kinds of leads did you generate last year? If there are 5,000 outbound leads, you do only need to double that or if it's pure 5,000 marketing leads, you might just need to double it. But again, if it's word of mouth, so you know the leads you generated and you know the different aspects of them, it makes it easier to project what kinds you need to generate and have those correct expectations. And understand the right metrics for your business and your lead generation.
I love it. It makes it simple. I have applied what you're saying for a few years, and it takes time to implement what you say, but I think it's very important at least to have an amazing product, get out there, and I think spears obviously focus most of the time in spears, but don't forget to do inbound work. And we didn't do much inbound on the past, and now it's like, damn it, we forgot doing inbound. And I think it's a little bit of like a 300 circle and looking after maybe outbound, inbound, and recommendations, like the all type of sales, how we used to do it.
Yeah, well, it's hard. You do need time to get, getting outbound started can be 6 to 12 months, right? To get inbound started and producing can be 6 to 12 months. And if you're a small team, it is hard to do both well. So usually you end up doing one, really well. And then when you can hire the right leader, you can do more of them really well. But you often pick, like, you just have to prioritize your energy, not try to do all of them at the same time when you're getting started.
What one of the fatal mistakes that you described is the one too much time on the wrong lead, which is it has happened to me, and I think many people who's listening right now. And I think that's a common mistake from any sales guy: too much time on the wrong lead.
Yeah. So it's probably the biggest waste of time I see in doing outbound. So my company, Predictable Revenue, is the outbound success company. And I've helped lots of companies. We do two things. If companies who are building their own outbound team, we can tell them how to do that, or coach them on it. And for companies who want to prospect in the United States, we can offer them outsourcing, which is usually an interim step for 6 to 18 months until they're ready to build their own team. So we see a lot of this, and the biggest waste of time and money is targeting the wrong leads, whether you're especially, it's like on the list building side, right? So building lists of the wrong leads, they have a low chance of closing. Whether you are a salesperson calling on those accounts and you're just spending too much time prospecting to companies that are probably not going to buy. So at Salesforce, we had 20 or 30 industries. We had customers across all kinds of industries, but there were only like 4 industries that we did outbound for heavily, right? So of all the industries, really we did outbound only in our strongest ones, like software, business services, communications, because doing outbound to most of the other industries like hospitals or garbage collection, and this is then, it just was a much lower chance. It wasn't the best use of our time. Now, when Salesforce got bigger, at some point, they did start to prospect to, and once they covered the whole United States, they started to prospect to more and more industries, but that's not where they started. So you really focus on, to nail your niche, now really focus on what kinds of companies are going to need you the most versus which ones are when you're a nice to have.
This is actually a very important word. Sorry, I think this is a very important word that you just said, nailing your niche, that you repeat in various books, from Impossible to Inevitable and also in Predictable Revenue. You talk about the importance of the niche. And if you can say and share a little bit more about it.
So the number one lesson I learned after Predictable Revenue came out was around this idea of nailing a niche. Or in some countries, they do say nailing a niche, like Canada. So what I saw was that there's a lot of companies that would struggle to grow, right? They'd be doing outbound prospecting. They really were trying to grow in almost any way. Here, my wife is. So they might be usually outbound prospecting, because this is where it shows up. I think it's the most obvious. So companies might prospect and they just couldn't get results. And when looking back after some of these different projects, I came up with this term, they hadn't nailed a niche or niche. And really what that was is the companies that struggled, and I realized it's not just prospecting, because I would see it in different areas you can get to, but it was the most obvious one was in prospecting. And really it means is companies didn't really do I would say, insightful work. They didn't really know who their best customers were. They didn't really understand the pains of those customers. And they didn't really know how to talk to the customer in the language of the customer. Where the world is moving towards is there's so much information out there. The way companies have usually created sort of marketing pages, emails, and even outbound techniques is you sit in a whiteboard and you just come up with your best guess. And usually, especially if marketing is doing it, but lots of times outbound salespeople, a lot of the words and phrases people come up with are just not that interesting to prospects. we have the leading network scalable architecture with a social plugin with AI, right?
It's missing the human, the building the rapport, isn't it? Knowing what they need. It's just a human touch after all.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's what's missing is how do I speak to my prospects in the way that they think, in the way they speak, because that's usually doesn't happen. So, for example, and really understand them. Like, how do I put myself in their shoes? And so, one of the best ways to do that is if you haven't actually had that job before, because that's probably the best is to have work in the same job you sell to. But barring that, it's just to interview some of them to understand really what their needs are, what their priorities are, and what kinds of keywords or key phrases do they either use in their day-to-day there, or how do they think about it. You want to listen for the way they speak, the way they write. So that is something that doesn't happen enough, but it's such an important technique or tactic to do in order to ensure that whether, again, you're creating marketing material or sales outbound material, what you're creating is actually interesting to your prospects. Because the more energy it takes for them to interpret your content, the less likely they're going to read it. They're more likely they're just going to move on because there's so much of it out there. The reason, one more important idea is where this really came from was observing the difference between when people know you, right? They've heard of your brand or you as a person, such as you get your customers refer you more customers. They're willing to give you a lot of time and attention to understand your business. Who are you? What can you do? How do you work? Okay, I'll be interested. But when you start doing outbound prospecting, especially, or outbound lead generation, and the people don't know you, they don't know your brand, they give you barely any, it's like you have a tiny shot, this little slice of a window of attention. And if you don't hit that bullseye, they're just going to ignore it. So that seeing that, and how do you sort of find your messaging that fits in that little tiny slice of their attention is where this whole idea of this nail and niche came from. And that became the entire first chapter and part of that new From Impossible book.
Also, I think just to finish up and run out, what about the emails? I'm talking about in the outbound, we use mainly emails. Obviously, this is changing to social media, but I think there's 3 points that you recommend on your books on short and sweet, simple questions. Do not sell on the emails, and as for referrals, if you can take me through this, how you make a perfect email, which I think is beautiful, and we follow every structure the email that you have been sharing with everyone. If you can talk a little bit more about this.
Yeah. First, let's just point out that there's multiple types of emails, right? Just like actually there's multiple types of phone calls, right? You can do research calls, which is called mapping calls. You can do direct phone call, cold calls. You can do follow-up calls. With emails, there are direct emails, there are referral emails, there are follow-up emails, so let's just stick to the one main difference, I think, are direct emails and referral emails. So direct emails imply that, hey, I want an appointment with Gerard. And I know that he's the person, so I'm going to try to email Gerard and get an appointment with him. I'm going directly to Gerard. A referral email is, I might know who the right person is, or maybe I don't. So I'm going to send an email hi to the CEO or executives and try to get referred down to the right person, down or over to the right person. And that was a technique that was incredibly successful at Salesforce.com for us. And I think, I don't know if I'd seen it before. And that kind of email looks like, hi, Gerard. I'm looking for the person who handles accounts payable for your company. Can you mind helping point me in the right direction, please?
And that's
so it can be that simple, like 1 line or 2 lines. Now, you can Google cold email templates and find hundreds or thousands of versions of emails, right? So I don't think that's that hard to do now. But here's the thing with emails that work. 1, short and sweet, which means how do you, like, less is more. The easier you make it for them to read it and to understand, and easy to act on, the more likely they're going to read it and act on it. If you make it hard to read, like it's confusing or long, they're just going to delete it or pass on. Right? So short and sweet. One simple tip there is, even if you have a block of text, even breaking that into, one sentence with white space, one sentence, to make it more like visually easier to read on a phone helps. So short and sweet. Another is, don't ask more than one question per email. I mean, if you're in the sales cycle and you already have a relationship, we're not talking about those situations. We're talking about they don't know you, or they're getting to know you. So just one call to action or one question per email, no more. Again, the more work that the email seems to involve, or having two calls to action will just more likely confuse them. Okay. So those are a couple principles. And the third is, you want to find your own voice and your own stories. So many people copy templates, and yeah, you can do that. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. But what does work is when you can put some of your own personality into your email, which could be the way that you write, it could be your language, it could be, a certain picture you use. I tend to write my emails in lowercase with like a little happy face emoticon. So there's all kinds of style things you could do with email. Some people use videos in email or GIFs. I don't know if I've seen that successful, but I've heard of it. And we've interviewed people in our podcast that have had success there. But it's finding for you what works with your voice and your style in standing out from all the stuff that sounds the same, all the copy-paste emails. So those are 3 simple tips that can make your email much better.
I love it. Aaron, I love everything you tell me. Tell me a little bit. Let's say I'm a company and I want to use your services. Where do I go? And tell me.
So it's easy, predictablerevenue.com. And we do 2 main things. One is, if you want to build your own team of outbound prospectors, we can help you get that right the first time. Right? That's actually a lot of the projects that I work on. Also, if you're not ready to build your own team and you want to start with outsourcing, at least only in North America or the United States, and then we can help you with outsourcing to generate leads for your sales team until you're ready to build your own team. And so it tends to be like 6 to 12 months is pretty typical as an interim solution.
And we go to predictablerevenue.com. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the best place, predictablerevenue.com.
What type of companies can use these services? Anyone, or is it mainly SaaS companies?
It's mostly technology companies. I mean, anyone that has salespeople could. It's mostly technology companies or technology services companies that have probably 1 or 2 million of revenue already, which means that they sort of know who their customers are. They have a chance of closing deals. They have some momentum, and they have some budget to invest in things like this. But that's and again, for outsourcing, we only do that if you're targeting the United States. If you're building your own team, we help companies with that worldwide, including Brazil, China. We've had Australia, all over.
I think you have a course running for predictable revenue. Is that correct?
Oh, there we are. Back.
Oh, thank you for that.
I'd say the main course is if you already have a team, but you want help training more people. It's like to save your manager time. Or if you want cold call training. So we have a cold calling course as well, because not enough people make phone calls these days, or cold calls. Right now it's in English, but the next class is going to have a Spanish component as well, because we have some prospectors from IBM from Colombia who speak Spanish joining.
And I'm very happy to help you, and if you need any help on that.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe.
Also, I have 2 secret questions that hopefully no one asked you that before. If you had the cover Time magazine for you, what will be on it? And it cannot be promotional for predictable revenue, obviously. What did you put on the top magazine of Time on the front cover?
Well, it definitely would be something around.
Anything you want.
I'm not sure like what I would want. It's hard to say what I would want to be up there, but what I think. But when it happens, when it does happen, I do think we've had a lot of people. I mean, 10 or 20. We've had people who say our family should be on a reality show. And we've had producers.
I love it.
Yeah, we've had even producers to our house, and maybe someday. But I do think that this combination of making money and making lots of money while being a very active father. I mean, I have to make money, by the way. I worked at Salesforce, but I didn't make retirement money. I made enough money to pay off some old divorce debts from my first marriage.
Okay.
So I have to make a lot of money with the big family. You mentioned the family's been incredible motivation to grow my income. Right? And
that's why I was going to ask.
That's why the kids came first, then the money. I did have the predictable revenue book and brand already there. So I was prepared, and the kids just helped me do that.
It didn't work out. I think I read and I heard that it just took you some time before predictable revenue until you niche the market, wasn't it?
Yeah, I had to. When I left Salesforce, I thought about I wanted to help people. I did some personal coaching to help people make money through enjoyment called Unique Genius. I tried executive team building called CEO Flow, turn your employees into mini CEOs.
From 2012.
Yeah, and then ultimately, when I had a family, and I needed to make more money and grow that money. Predictable revenue was that was really the niche I'd already nailed and the easiest place to make a lot of money for the family. So these are all things I've been through personally. Right? That's where the best lessons come from when you go through things yourself.
It's such an inspiration.
I think it's that blend of active father while making money is what would be the magazine cover.
Okay, that's question one. Question two is, what motorcycle do you have?
I've got a 2001 Suzuki GSX-R 600.
Okay, do you have time to ride it?
Not these days, no. Not in the last year or so because I'm driving. Anytime I go someplace, I have to drive kids around. And my wife has a 2015 Ninja 300. So she doesn't ride it. I ride that more than she does.
Okay. I hope you have time to.
I'm gonna ride one to an interview though today. I have to do a video interview, so I'm gonna ride one today.
Okay, please do that and send me a picture. I'd love to share it in the group.
Sure.
One last question. Any recommended book that you would recommend to everyone to read? Obviously, it's Impossible from Inevitable and Predictable Revenue, and if you want to know a little bit more, see Flow, but one that is not any of those three, please.
I found there's a book I read. I can't remember. It's come up a couple times. When I was at Salesforce, and it was probably the most influential book on my management style. And that book was called Wooden. It was about the most winningest basketball coach in the United States. This guy named John Wooden. And he won just championship after championship after championship after championship. It's a very simple book. And it's not about basketball. It's about his style of coaching and managing people and working with his team. So Wooden, that was one I would highly recommend to anyone. Especially if you if you either manage people already or want to manage people. If you don't have any interest in managing, I would recommend, if you haven't read it, The 4 Agreements. More of like a personal growth book, but a great one.
I'm going to share with everyone in the group class. I'm going to learn. I love audiobooks. I'm not a big reader, but I love audios. I don't know, this happens. And I love Predictable and Impossible because both of them has been on audio and they're read by a lovely lady. Well, if anyone in the group wants to get Aaron Ross to see him on Friday, he's going to be on Paris on SaaSTR. Also, we will share the Amazon link, or you can share your own Predictable Revenue, Impossible from Inevitable, plus check the website if you want to get Aaron Ross services, because I think it's the best way of paying him back everything that he's been teaching to everyone. And after all, this is about sales and love and sharing. Aaron, it's been amazing. Let me put this hat because this is kind of like starting point, ending point, and just like sharing the love with everyone. It's so simple with a hat, man.
I gotta take a picture here. That's.
I send you video. I don't know if you. I send you video for you, man. You are just well. If I'm coming to Paris, which I'm certainly going to check the flight, I will be wearing the hat just to see you, man.
You'll be easy to find.
Okay, Aaron, it's been a pleasure to speak to you, and see you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Gerard. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye. See you later. Aaron, if you can